Venezuela's National Electoral Council finalizes the nomination process with the official registration of candidates for the July 28th presidential election. In Argentina, state workers went on a national strike for 48 hours in rejection of the possible wave of layoffs by the government of Javier Milei. And in Ecuador, the National AntiMining Front denounced on Tuesday the acts of repression by the police forces against peasants of the community of Palo Quemado in Cotopaxi. Hello and welcome to From the South. I'm Alejandra Garcia from teleSUR studios in Havana, Cuba. We begin with the news. Venezuela's National Electoral Council finalizes the nomination process with registration of 13 candidates for the July 28th presidential elections. 12 of the candidates are of opposition tendency, and in total 35 political parties of different tendencies have supported and registered the 13 candidates. The names registered so far are Nicolas Maduro, postulated by the United Socialist Party of Venezuela, Luis Eduardo Martinez for Democratic Action, Juan Carlos Alvarado, nominated by COPEI, Antonio Ecarri will be the candidate of Progressive Advance, Daniel Ceballos of the Arepa Party, Benjamin Rauseo of the Conde Party, Javier Bertucci ran for the party Hope for Change, and other organizations. The president of the CNE assured that the requirements will be thoroughly reviewed to make sure that the 13 candidates comply with the legal requirements. During an interview for our multi-platform teleSUR, the president of Venezuela, Nicolas Maduro, affirmed that the opposition sector is not prepared to govern the country.
I believe that Venezuelans are going to draw their own conclusions, to go for what is safe, or to go for a leap into the void. All that opposition, the last names, the posts they put, all the opposition, none is prepared to take the leadership of the country. None has a plan. None has a team. They already won once in 2015. What did they do from the National Assembly? Ask for sanctions, ask for blockades, lead the Guarimbas in 2017, where they burned more than 20 people and filled 120 days on the country with violence, more than 300 cities of the country full of violence because of them. What did they do when they won in 2015? They promised that the last day would come. No, they hit the economy. They destroyed the economy. They sabotaged the additional credits. They did not approve even one additional credit. They tried to finish with the missions and great missions. They had the power of the National Assembly, a great power, and in the country, according to the Constitution. And what did they do? They hurt the country. They mistreated the people. The people know who they are. Everybody knows it. And the people are going to go for what is safe. We have the plan. We have the project of the country.
Likewise, the Venezuelan head of state also denounced that the Venezuelan far right appears only when there are electoral processes in order to sabotage the elections, not to recognize the results, and to generate violence in the country.
The right wing and the opposition only appear every time there are elections. You are going to see now some candidates. You are going to see them all reminding themselves that there is something called the people, not us. We are with the people every day, the 24 hours, the 365 days of the year. All of our people, all our street leaders, our community council spokesmen and spokeswomen, our club leaders, and we are with them every day of the year. Of every year that we have spent in this battle, we are by the side of the people. For better or for worse, we are always by the side of the people standing up. They, when elections come, or sabotage the elections, as they have done so many times, but mouthing the electoral system when they know they are lost, or they get into the elections to accumulate strength and ignore the results, shout fraud, seek violence. We are the guarantee of peace.
In addition, Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro pointed out that the great support for a presidential candidate had not been seen since October 4th, 2012.
A spirit like the one I experienced today I really haven't seen it since October 4, 2012. A spirit of the revolutionary people, the Bolivarian people, the people of Chavez are ready. They are ready. They want to fight, as they say. They want to go out to the streets. Today the people of Chavez send a message from the spirit. It is one of those messages that come out, that emerge in history. And the message is that we are prepared, ready to give this battle and to guarantee the future of Venezuela. From here on, the people are not going to let the homeland be taken away. They are not going to let the country be poisoned, filled with violence. We are not going backwards, not even to gain momentum. No, we are going forward, as I say.
The Venezuelan Attorney General's office reported on Tuesday the arrest of two armed individuals who were at an event in support of the registration of the candidacy of President Nicolas Maduro. Venezuela's Attorney General Tarek William Saab affirmed that the suspects arrested for an alleged plan to sabotage Chavista mobilizations in support of President Nicolas Maduro are activists of the opposition party Venta Venezuela, led by Maria Corina Machado. The official said on X account that during the interrogation they stated that they were political activists of the organization Venta Venezuela, a repeat offender in violent actions similar to this one. He also stated that as part of the investigation, several raids are being carried out without providing further details on the operations.
Los hechos ocurrieron en los alrededores de la Plaza Diego Ibarra.
The events occurred in the vicinity of the Plaza Diego Ibarra, where the president would give a speech after his registration at the National Electoral Council. At 11:30 in the morning, it was observed that a crowd of upset people pointed to a subject who was in the place and allegedly carrying a firearm between his clothes and a banner that could be clearly seen. When approached by the security forces, was seized a 9mm caliber firearm.
Tarek William Saab also revealed that both suspects were arrested and immediately placed at the order of the public prosecutors.
A few minutes later, we located his companion with whom he had a previous telephone conversation, who was identified as Carlos Eduardo Castillo, who was also found to have a Walter caliber 7.65 caliber firearm with a 7.65mm magazine with a capacity of 8 ammunition, which contains 6 ammunition, and for these facts, both were arrested and immediately placed at the order of the public prosecutor.
The Ministry of Popular Power for Foreign Relations of the Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela rejects the interfering statement issued by the Brazilian Foreign Ministry and said it seems to have been dictated by the U.S. State Department. The government of Venezuela has maintained its loyal diplomatic relations with the government of Brazil and therefore has not and will not provide further comments on the electoral processes of the nation. The Brazilian government has shown no interest in destabilization attempts that have been foiled these weeks, especially the armed one, and on the life of President Nicolas Maduro during the demonstrations of support for his presidential candidacy. The Venezuelan government is grateful to President Lula, who without hesitation has firmly condemned the blockade and the illegal sanctions imposed by the United States that directly affect the people of Venezuela. Let's take a short break. Remember, you can join us on TikTok at teleSUR English, where you will find news in different formats, news updates, and more. Other stories coming up. Stay with us. Welcome back to From the South. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis signed into a law bill that prohibits children under 14 from accessing social networking sites and requires 14 and 15 years old to obtain parental consent. Reuters news agency reported that the law obliges social networking platforms to cancel the accounts of minors under 14 and those under 16 who do not have parental authorization. In addition, the regulations require them to use a third-party verification systems to screen out minors. The governor added that social media harms children in a variety of ways. DeSantis stated that the House Bill 3 HB3 gives parents a greater ability to protect their children, who also added that adolescents may suffer from depression, anxiety, and low self-esteem due to exposure to social networking sites. HB3 requires pornographic or sexually explicit websites to use age verification to prevent access by minors. In Argentina, state workers went on a national strike for 48 hours in rejection of the possible wave of layoffs by the government of Javier Milei. Milei's cabinet announced that 30% of the workers under collective bargaining agreements will not have their annual contracts renewed. In this sense, the State Workers Association started a national strike on Monday as part of the day of struggle against the threat of dismissal of a group of SENASA workers. The union pointed out that the measure could affect the operation of the country's ports, airports, and customs, and also warned that with this decision the government is pushing tens of thousands of state workers into poverty. Pope Francis lamented on Tuesday the advance of drug trafficking and violence in the Argentine city of Rosario and urged to work for peace. The Supreme Pontiff pointed out in a video that it is necessary to understand the need for the presence of security forces to bring peace to the community. However, he admitted that in order to reach the path of peace, complex and integral answers must be found, with the collaboration of all the institutions that make up the life of a society. Pope Francis emphasized the search for consensus and dialogue to generate laws and public policies that recover the social structure. He also warned the complicity of the private sector and affirmed that there is a great task ahead of the business world, not only in the prevention of complicity in businesses with mafia organizations, but also in social commitment. In Ecuador, the National Anti-Mining Front denounced on Tuesday the acts of repression by the police forces against peasants of the community of Palo Quemado in Cotopaxi. The acts of violence began after the temporary suspension of the environmental consultation that was being carried out in the territory, where the rejection of the implementation of a mining project persisted. The judicial decision was a response to the appeal presented by the mayor of the municipality of Sitges, Oscar Monge, who requested the withdrawal of the national police and armed forces from the sector to avoid further confrontations. Also, indigenous organizations hold the government of Daniel Noboa responsible for the acts of violence committed in the territory by police agents. In Russia, the results of the first investigations into last Friday's attack on the Kru City Hall on the outskirts of Moscow confirmed the existence of a Ukrainian fingerprint. However, the head of the Federal Security Service, Alexander Bortnikov, assured that Moscow will continue to investigate whether the presence and participation of the Ukrainian side is real or not. Meanwhile, the chairman of the Russian Investigation Committee, Alexander Vastrygin, stated that all those accused of perpetrating the terrorist attack in Crocus have acknowledged their guilt. He also pointed out that the terrorists have detailed information about the masterminds and accomplices in the preparation of the attack. Humanity celebrates this March 26th the World Climate Day, declared by the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change in 1992 to raise awareness of its importance and the influence of global warming. According to the latest flagship report, the State of the World's Climate 2023, launched by the World Meteorological Organization (WMO) at the United Nations headquarters in Geneva, unprecedented weather extremes were recorded worldwide last year and numerous records were broken. Climate is defined as the set of weather and atmospheric conditions in a geographic area over an extended period of time, with variables such as wind, precipitation, humidity, atmospheric pressure, and temperatures.
The year 2023 set new records for every single climate indicator. This annual report shows that the climate crisis is the defining challenge that humanity faces. It is closely intertwined with inequality crisis, as witnessed by growing food insecurity, population displacement, and biodiversity loss. Glaciers loss was the largest on record last year. These are the water towers of the world. They are our fresh water reservoirs. Sea ice depletion in the Antarctica was one of the major climate facts recorded in 2023.
We have a final short break coming up, but before we invite you to join our WhatsApp community for our English-speaking audience, you can scan the QR code on screen to join directly and share the link to reach more people. Constant news coverage of Latin America and the Caribbean, as well as the rest of the world. Stay connected and informed with teleSUR. And a short break, don't go away. Welcome back to From the South. China on Tuesday welcomed the Security Council resolution on an immediate ceasefire in Gaza and recalled that the United Nations body's documents are binding. Foreign Ministry spokesman Lin Jian said that Resolution 2728 unequivocally calls for a ceasefire and the lifting of all barriers to the delivery of large-scale humanitarian assistance. The spokesman emphasized that this Security Council document is binding and urged the parties concerned to comply with their obligations under the United Nations Charter and to take due measures as required by the resolution. The clarification comes after U.S. Ambassador to the United Nations Linda Thomas-Greenfield said that after the vote that this text was non-binding. Palestinian authorities denounced that more than 5,800 students have been killed by Israel since it began its genocidal operation in the Gaza Strip. According to the Palestinian Ministry of Education, around 5,826 Palestinian students were killed in the bombardment by the Israeli occupation forces since October 2023, and those injured reached 9,570, while in occupied West Bank, 55 students were killed and 329 were injured. The agency further detailed that 264 teachers and administrators were also killed. The ministry noted that 286 public schools and 65 schools affiliated with the United Nations Refugee Relief and Works Agency, UNRWA, were bombed and vandalized in the Gaza Strip, resulting in 111 of them being severely damaged and 40 being completely destroyed. And now let's go to the world of sports, especially gymnastics, because the Colombian athlete Ángel Hernández obtained his qualification to Paris 2024. After the final round on Sunday, March 24th, in the fifth stop of the Trampoline Gymnastics World Cup, Hernández qualified to the next Olympic Games. In this sense, the Colombian got the 41st ticket for his country in the international multi-sports event and is the second gymnast to enter the Games after Luisa Blanco in the artistic gymnastics. Hernández placed by placing 8th, 13th, counting the gymnast already qualified, with 51 points overall and occupying the 13th position out of 16 eligible athletes in the ranking. 29-year-old Ángel Hernández is a trampoline gymnast athlete. He achieved the goal of being a competitor in the 2020 Summer Olympic Games, where he placed 9th in the men's trampoline. On the other hand, he also represented Colombia in the 2020 Pan American Gymnastics Championship, where he won gold medals in synchronized trampoline with Álvaro Calero and also in individual trampoline. It should be noted that Hernández has won 2 gold medals in Bolivarian Games Games and was crowned champion in the Pan American Gymnastics Championship held in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. And now we move to the world of baseball. On Monday, the Diablos of Mexico defeated the New York Yankees by a score of 8-5 to complete a two-game series swept as part of two exhibition games. This game was the culmination of the New York Yankees team's visit to Mexico as part of its preparation for the 2024 season. The Mexican League team's victory came thanks to a comeback on the scoreboard that allowed a Mexican roster filled with former MLB players to sweep one of the sport's premier ball and strike teams. After the game, former Major League Baseball player and current Mexican League player Trevor Bauer talked about his positive experience in Latin America.
I love playing in the atmosphere with, the music's going the whole game, the chants. It's like a party every time they come to the game. It's something I think that, baseball in America would be, it would be good for baseball in America to have more of that. But that's part of the benefit of going and seeing baseball around the world and seeing different cultures, because you pick up things that are good, and Japan does some things better than the United States, and the United States does some things better than Japan, and if we can find a way to make all of those things come together, then baseball can be as fun as possible for everybody.
We have come to the end of this news brief, but you can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net, and join us on social media: Facebook, X, Instagram, Telegram, and TikTok.